Hello everyone, and welcome back to Shadow Whisper. Tonight, we journey deep into the endless silence of Nevada's Highway 50, a road so empty it's been called the loneliest highway in America. But for one convoy of truckers, that silence turned into something far darker. Engines failed without reason, radios spoke in unfamiliar voices, and the desert itself seemed to bend time. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to Shadow Whisper and turn on the notification bell, so you never miss the next time the darkness speaks. Now, let's begin. The Lost Convoy of Nevada. They call Route 50 the loneliest road in America for a reason. Past Fallon, the desert stops being scenery and becomes the only thing awake. I've hauled medical supplies across Nevada for 9 years, mostly at night when the highway is an empty vein. The run between Austin and Eureka should have been routine. Clear sky, dry pavement, coffee brewed too strong. At 2:11 a.m., fuel sat just under 3/4 and the outside temp read 39. Facts keep fear from growing legs. The CB was quiet. Windows cracked, a blue sign slid out of the dark rest area, 2 miles. I didn't remember a rest stop out here. A mile later, another sign. White reflector tape, clean lettering. Maybe the state had added one. Maps go stale. The need to stretch one. I watched for the turnoff. It looked textbook. 2 sodium lights over a concrete pad. 3 semi-slots all empty plus a loop for cars. Tan cinder block bathrooms. A vending machine glowing aquarium blue. I parked in the middle slot and let the engine idle. Inside, the bathroom was spotless. No graffiti, no paper nests. An industrial roll still had the perforated tape across the first sheet. The mirror was clean enough to count the salt rings on my collar. Back at the machine, the drinks were wrong. Citrus Blast, Cola Classic with real sugar, a sports bottle with an old label. Every expiration stamp was smudged, all reading the same, 0824. I fed $2. The machine dropped a Citrus Blast so cold it hurt to hold. It tasted like memory more than fruit. The asphalt had no oil scars or cigarette burns, no black grit around long screws. New, I thought. I logged the stop, stretched, and climbed back in. The dash read 2:19. I merged east. 2 minutes later, another blue sign surfaced. Rest area. 2 miles. A humorless laugh escaped. Maybe I'd looped and rejoined westbound. The dash compass still said E. The sky to my left was the same smear of starlight. GPS showed a clean seam of progress. A mile later, the second sign. Same bolt rust. Then the off-ramp. Same curve of guardrail, same burn mark on the post. I took it. The lot was empty in the same pattern of empty. A moth battered the sodium light in the same rhythm. The machine hummed the same note. I parked in the same middle slot without meaning to. My tire tracks waited, edges too crisp for the breeze that had been moving sand all night. They looked new. They looked now. In the bathroom, the roll was still tape-sealed. The mirror still perfect. The trash can held an identical empty Citrus Blast bottle, though mine sat sweating on my dash. Tired enough to be stupid, I set a 20-minute alarm and closed my eyes. I woke with cotton mouth. 2:41 a.m. Windows fogged from my breath. I wiped a circle and stared at the desert until my pulse climbed down. This time I accelerated harder, as if speed could outrun geometry. The blue sign still arrived on schedule. Rest area, 2 miles. I didn't stop. I put on an audiobook to force voices into the cab and talked over them. 2 miles, 1 mile exit curve lights. I kept my eyes forward and blew past the ramp. For a heartbeat, I swear those sodium lights rose to match my speed, like the building lifted to keep pace. Then the dark swallowed everything. My rear view was a coin of black. 20 minutes later, the CB crackled. A driver warning about a cow near Eureka. The GPS pinged a tower. The desert relaxed back into the shape I recognized. Long, honest, empty. I stayed on the throttle until the east turned chalk and the mountains showed their ribs. 2 days later, I checked the dot map. No rest area exists on that stretch. I asked a trooper in Ely where drivers stop. He shrugged. They don't. I told him what I saw. He didn't laugh or lecture. If you're smart, you won't look for it again. I'm not superstitious. I write down times and temperatures because numbers feel like handrails. But there's a bottle cap in my cup holder from a drink they don't make. And every time I pass the mile where the sign should be, my hands tighten and I don't check the clock. Some places are built to keep you moving. Some are built to make you stop. And some are built out of whatever waits between the two. Bright enough to be helpful, empty enough to be hungry. If you see a rest area on Route 50 after midnight, keep driving. If it wants you, it will find you. I didn't tell anyone right away. Not my dispatcher, not the other drivers on the route, not even my wife. Because how do you explain something like that without sounding like your brain slipped out somewhere on mile marker 160? But truckers talk, and word travels fast when a route starts acting strange. A week later, I met a guy named Howard at a diner outside Ely. He'd been hauling refrigerated produce for 22 years. I mentioned carefully that I'd seen a rest area that shouldn't exist. His eyes stopped moving for a second. Then he said, "Let me guess. 2 lights. Clean bathroom. Blue vending machine." My stomach went cold. He nodded, staring at his coffee. "Saw it in Auto 9. Stayed long enough to grab a soda." Next thing I know, my logbook jumped 3 hours ahead. No fuel burn. No miles added. Like I'd parked inside a pause button. He never took Route 50 again after that. He leaned in, voice low. "You ever notice the smell? Disinfectant and wet metal?" I hadn't mentioned that to anyone. The memory hit. A faint chemical tang in the air like hospital cleaner over rust. It clung to my jacket for a day after. Howard left the diner before sunrise, saying he had to check his tires. When I went outside, his rig was gone. No taillights, no sound. Just the empty highway stretching east. Shimmered with heat even before morning. 3 days later, I made the mistake of looking for proof. I downloaded satellite images of that stretch of road from Google Earth. Frame by frame, 2018, 2019, 2020, nothing. No rest area. No exit ramp. Then on the 2021 satellite pass, just for 1 month, there it was. A bright concrete square carved into the desert shoulder. 2 lights. A single parked truck casting a shadow. The next month's image gone. Just sand and scrub. I sent it to a buddy who works for the Nevada DOT. He called me 2 nights later. "Where'd you get that image?" "Google Earth." He paused. "They scrubbed that entry 2 years ago. That rest stop was never completed. Construction shut down after an accident. Contractor killed when the foundation collapsed. Site was buried. No access road." I stared at the photo on my laptop until the pixels blurred into gray. Then I looked at the timestamp. 2:17 a.m. That night, curiosity turned into something darker. I replayed my dashcam footage from that drive. For the first 30 minutes, it showed what I remembered. Desert, asphalt, clean stars. But when the rest area appeared, the footage glitched. The image doubled, split down the middle like 2 realities fighting for the same frame. For exactly 22 seconds, the timestamp froze. No movement, no sound. Then the camera blinked and I was already back on the highway again. The sign passing me in reverse like I just left. That's when I noticed something I'd missed before. My reflection in the windshield. Except it wasn't looking where I was. It was looking sideways, toward the vending machine. A week later, I started seeing the sign again. Even in daylight, faint against the mirage heat. Rest area, 2 miles. Except now the numbers below the words were gone. No mile marker, no direction, just white paint on blue metal, cleaner than the rest of the road. Every instinct in me said to keep driving, but I couldn't, because part of me wanted to know what happens if you stop a 3rd time. 2 months passed before I saw the sign again. Same road, same night shift, same stretch of desert that looks like it's been copy-pasted for 100 miles. I almost convinced myself I'd imagined it all, until the headlights caught that shade of blue I'll never forget. Rest area, 2 miles. The letters gleamed clean, untouched by sand or weather. No highway department sign lasts that perfect under Nevada sun. But there it was, shining like it had been planted yesterday. The CB crackled once. A burst of static. Then silence. I told myself I'd just drive past it this time, no stops. No detours. But when the ramp appeared, my hands turned the wheel before my brain agreed. Like muscle memory that wasn't mine. The lights were on again. Same lot, same empty slots, same vending machine glow cutting through the dark like an aquarium lamp. Only this time something felt off the moment I killed the engine. The air was heavier, muffled, like sound didn't travel right. Even the desert wind had stopped. I stepped out, boots crunching gravel that didn't echo. The vending machine hummed softly, screen showing the same 3 drinks. Citrus Blast, Cola Classic, Glacier Energy. But when I leaned closer, the cans behind the glass weren't upright anymore. They were tilted sideways like gravity didn't agree with them. A faint vibration buzzed beneath the glass like the whole machine was shivering. Then I saw it. A handprint pressed against the inside of the glass. Not dusty or greasy, unfrozen. Frost patterns where fingers had been. It was mine, same scar under the thumb. Same crooked middle knuckle from when I broke it in 17. Except I hadn't touched the glass. I backed away. The air was buzzing now. Low, electric, like standing too close to power lines. My truck lights flickered once, then steadied. I got in, slammed the door, started the engine. The dashboard lights fluttered, radio cutting in with static bursts that almost formed words. "Don't stop," I floored it. As I merged back onto the highway, the rest stop vanished in my mirrors. One blink it was there, the next, empty desert. No lights, no turnoff, no sign. The GPS said I'd never left Route 50. My odometer had jumped forward exactly 217 miles, and when I looked down, the same half-empty Citrus Blast bottle sat in my cup holder. Condensation fresh, ice cold. A week later, I showed the footage to a friend who edits dash cam compilations. He froze the frame when the rest area appeared. "There's something in the doorway," he said. He zoomed in. It was a man, or something shaped like one, standing just outside the bathroom door. No face, just an outline where light refused to exist. The timestamp read 2:17 a.m. again. I still drive nights, still cross Nevada twice a week. But I take the long way now, north through I-80. Adds 2 hours to the run and I don't care, because I learned something out there. That rest stop isn't a place. It's a pattern, a trap built out of repetition. And whatever built it isn't trying to kill you. It's trying to keep you. So if you ever find yourself on Route 50 after midnight, and you see a sign for a rest area that doesn't belong there, don't slow down. Don't blink. Don't even look, because the road isn't lonely. It's waiting. The first time I heard them, I thought it was just interference. That's the thing about the Nevada desert. Once the sun goes down, the air itself starts to hum. Heat turns to static. The wind sings through the sand like a dying frequency. And when you've been driving long enough, you start mistaking noise for voices. But this wasn't just noise. It happened on US Route 95, heading north between Tonopah and Goldfield. Middle of July, 102 degrees even after dark. Visibility maybe 30 feet. I'd been listening to Channel 19. Like always, truckers talking weather, roadblocks, fuel prices. Then the sandstorm hit, out of nowhere. The sky just folded in on itself. 1 minute clear, next minute a wall of tan swallowing everything. Wind howled so hard it shook my mirrors. I slowed to 30, flashers on, headlights cutting nothing but dust, and that's when my CB radio came alive. Not the usual chatter. Not warnings. It was a voice I didn't recognize. Calm, low, like someone reading coordinates from far away. Breaker, southbound. 2 miles past marker 118. Tires blown. Need a lift. I pressed the mic. Copy that, driver. You say marker 118. I'm about 5 ahead. You visible through this mess? No answer. Just faint static, then another voice, different, overlapping. He didn't stop. Kept going. Repeat, he didn't stop. The hair on my arms rose. It sounded like an argument, but the kind of argument recorded through a wall. Words muffled, tone sharp. Then came laughter. Short, breathy, close. I turned the volume down. Didn't matter. The sound didn't fade with the knob. I pulled over. Let the rig idle while dust hammered the windshield. Visibility was 0 now, but the storm didn't feel natural. The wind wasn't shifting like normal. It was pulsing, like the desert itself was exhaling. Then the CB burst again, northbound. Mile marker 121, White Kenworth. Driver name, Mitchell Kane. My blood froze. That was my name. No one on that frequency should have known it. Kane's rig rolled at 0217. Fatality confirmed. I dropped the mic. It hit the floor mat and swung against my leg like a pendulum. The voice kept repeating the same report like a police dispatch trapped in a loop. Rolled at 0217. Rolled at 0217? I checked my clock. 2:16 a.m. For a second I thought I'd passed out behind the wheel and this was my brain finishing the story. But everything around me was too sharp, too real. The vibration of the engine, the metallic taste of fear in my mouth, the way the air smelled, hot dust and ozone. I switched the CB off. Unplugged it entirely and still the voice whispered through the static, southbound. 2 miles past marker 118. The exact words I'd heard the first time. That was when I realized something. The wind outside was matching the rhythm of the voice. Each gust hit the cab right on cue with every word. Like the desert was speaking through the storm. I started driving again, eyes locked on the road, hands shaking on the wheel. Dust thickened, swallowing my headlights whole, and as the visibility dropped to nothing, I saw the glow of taillights ahead, faint, flickering, as if another rig was fighting through the storm. I honked twice. No reaction. I called through the dead CB, forgetting it was unplugged. No response. Then the taillight split into 3, then 4, then vanished entirely. And I swear for just a moment, the glow of red lights in the dust looked like eyes watching me drive by. By the time I reached Goldfield, my nerves were shot. The storm had passed as suddenly as it arrived, like someone had flipped a switch and turned the desert back on. No dust. No wind, no sound, just miles of still. Air and stars sharp enough to cut glass. Pulled into an abandoned service station. One of those half-collapsed shells with a faded gas 24 HRS, sign that probably hadn't lit up in 20 years. I parked under the awning, killed the engine, and just sat there trying to make sense of what I'd heard. My first thought, audio bleed. Old CB frequencies sometimes replay fragments from trucker accidents, residual signals bouncing off the ionosphere. It happens. You hear ghost transmissions all the time in the desert, but the voice saying my name, that was different. That wasn't random interference. I reached for my dash camera thinking maybe the audio feed had caught something. I plugged it into my laptop. Video looked normal. Walls of dust, flashes of red taillights, nothing unusual. Then I turned up the volume, and my stomach flipped. The static wasn't random. It was patterned. A rising tone every 4 seconds. Consistent, mechanical, almost like Morse code trying to form words through the wind. I isolated the audio and slowed it down. That's when I heard it clearly for the first time. Mitchell Kane, 0217. Rollover confirmed. But the voice wasn't from the radio anymore. It was my voice. I slammed the laptop shut so hard the hinge cracked. The echo of my own voice hung in my head long after the sound was gone. I needed proof that I wasn't losing it. So I checked my electronic logbook, the GPS-based tracker that records every minute of driving. The screen showed my last location as mile marker 121. Route 95, timestamp 0217 a.m., exactly like the broadcast. But according to the log, I'd been stationary for 14 minutes, even though I'd been driving the entire time. That made no sense. The truck had never stopped, yet the system insisted I had. I tried refreshing the data and the screen blinked white, then loaded a full blank hour between 2 and 3 a.m. The log simply didn't exist. It was as if the truck and I had been off the map for 60 straight minutes. That night I checked my route on Google Maps, just to make sure I'd taken the right turn at Tonopah. The highway line glowed blue across the desert, but right between mile markers 118 and 121, the route map flickered gray, as if the satellite image had been corrupted. Zooming in didn't help. The area blurred out into static, the same visual noise as my CB recording, and buried in the corner of the map, barely visible through the pixelation, were faint red dots in a line, like taillights stretching into the sand. I refreshed the page. They were gone. The next morning I stopped at a diner in Beatty. When I told another driver what I'd experienced, he didn't laugh. He just said, "Storms out here don't move with the wind, they move with the road." He sipped his coffee, then added, "Every time one hits, somebody hears a voice, usually their own." He left me with that sentence and a receipt that said 2:17 a.m., even though I'd paid at 9. That was the night I realized the storm wasn't weather. It was a recording. Something the desert keeps replaying over and over, trying to correct a mistake that never happened. I wasn't supposed to go back. Every instinct in me said to leave that road behind, to forget whatever had whispered my name out there. But fear has a strange gravity. It pulls you back toward the thing that broke you. So 2 weeks later, I loaded a solo run through Tonopah. Same route, same truck, same desert. Only this time I brought a second CB, a backup recorder, and a camera mounted on my shoulder harness. If something happened again, I wanted evidence, something physical I could play back in daylight. The drive was quiet. Too quiet. No wind, no other rigs. Just that endless straight ribbon of asphalt running through miles of dead sand. I hit mile marker 118 at 2:03 a.m., right on schedule. The sky began to change almost instantly. Stars dimming, air thickening, static crawling into the speakers even though every device was turned off. And then I saw it. A thin orange wall on the horizon, rolling toward me like a curtain being drawn across the desert. The storm. I slowed to 30, flipped on the flashers. My windshield filled with dust, not swirling like normal sand, but moving sideways like it was following a current. My recorder started flashing. No sound, no visual feed, just the timestamp jumping from 2:15 straight to 2:17 a.m. Then the voices came back. Breaker. Southbound. 2 miles past marker 118. He didn't stop. Repeat, he didn't stop. Fatality confirmed. They were overlapping again. My voice among them, but distorted this time, slower, deeper, like a broken tape dragging on the reel. Mitchell. Kane. Still driving. I gripped the wheel tighter. Still driving. Those 2 words hit me harder than any threat could, because they weren't a warning. They were confusion. Something or someone out there didn't understand why I was still moving. The dust thickened until it felt like driving inside a vacuum. The truck's headlights bounced right back off the air, and shadows began flickering in the fog. Shapes that looked like silhouettes of rigs, half seen, half erased, gliding alongside me without wheels touching the ground. For a few seconds, I swear I was driving in a convoy of ghosts. Their trailers stretched and warped in the sand like reflections in water. One of them matched my speed perfectly. Same shape, same model, same company logo. It was my truck, except through the storm's haze I could see the cab's interior. And there was someone inside. A man, head slumped over the wheel, face bloodless, jaw open like he'd been frozen mid-breath. The dash clock inside that truck read 2:17 a.m. I slammed the brakes, tires locking, trailer skidding sideways through the dust until everything went still. For a long moment, I sat there shaking, watching my own headlights fade against an empty road. The other trucks were gone. The storm was gone, and I was alone again, Only the sound of the CB filled the silence. One last transmission, clearer than any before. Breaker, northbound. White Kenworth, Kane. Copy, it was my voice. But this time I wasn't speaking. The channel went dead. No static, no hum. Just silence. When I pulled into Reno at sunrise, my logbook showed the same blank gap. 2 bow to 3 odd a.m. Missing. And the GPS data? Said I had stopped exactly 2 miles past marker 118. I checked the footage from my body cam. The drive was there up until 2:15, then black screen. When the feed came back, I was parked on the shoulder, engine idling, murmuring something under my breath. I turned up the audio. It was my own voice whispering, rolled at 02:17. Fatality confirmed. I haven't driven that route since, but every few months a storm hits that stretch of highway, and truckers report hearing a man on Channel 19 repeating the same words, over and over. Breaker. Southbound. 2 miles past marker 118. They say his signal only comes through during dust storms, and they say if you answer him, you'll start to hear your own name next. I've driven through Nevada more times than I can count. Vegas to Reno, Reno to Ely, Ely to nowhere. If you've done long hauls, you know how the desert messes with your sense of distance. Hours stretch into days and you start seeing shapes in the heat that aren't really there. But this wasn't heat haze. This was something else. It started on a route I'd taken dozens of times. Highway 50, known to truckers as the loneliest road in America. A straight scar of asphalt cutting through empty land, nothing but dirt, salt flats and rusted gas pumps long dead. I'd left Fallon late, planning to sleep in Ely before sunrise. Around midnight, fuel gauge halfway down, I saw a flicker in the distance. A vacancy sign, the kind that buzzes faintly in pink neon. Could have been a mirage, but it grew brighter as I got closer, casting that soft candy-colored glow that looked impossibly new for a road this forgotten. The sign read, Silver Sky Motel, 24-hour diner. Clean beds, friendly rates. I slowed down. The lot had maybe 6 rooms, a single gas pump, and a small diner with lights still on. Old-fashioned, looked like a slice of 1960s Americana someone had forgotten to demolish. Inside, the air was cool, heavy with the smell of fried food and bleach. A woman stood behind the counter, hair curled, wearing a mint green uniform like something from a postcard. Long night? She asked, voice soft but flat. Yeah, I said, rubbing my eyes. Headed east. Need gas and a room. She smiled, or at least tried to. Pump still works, she said. Cash only. Rooms are $25 a night. 25. That alone should have made me suspicious. But exhaustion beats common sense every time. I handed her the cash, took the key, and asked if the diner was still serving. She nodded. Until the storm passes. I glanced outside. There was no storm. The night was perfectly still. After refueling, I parked near room 3, a faded blue door with a rusty brass number screwed on crooked. Inside, the room was basic but spotless. Bed made tight, old tube TV humming faintly, and a smell that reminded me of my grandmother's house. Clean, but too clean, like no one had lived in it for a long time. I showered, lay down, and was asleep within minutes. At least I thought I was. Sometime around 2 a.m., I woke up to the sound of voices outside. 2 men talking near the gas pump. Couldn't make out the words at first, just the rhythm of a conversation that sounded wrong. Too even, too rehearsed. I looked out through the curtain. The same 2 men were standing in the middle of the lot, both wearing identical dark jackets, both staring straight ahead, neither moving. The only thing breaking the stillness was the faint buzz of that neon sign. Then one of them turned his head sharply toward my window as if he'd felt me watching. That's when the power went out. Everything. The neon, the diner, the hallway light under my door, went black. I froze, heart pounding, listening to my own breath echo in the dark. Then, from the corner of the room, the old TV clicked on by itself. The screen glowed white for a second, then filled with static. Through the static, I heard the same woman's voice from the front desk. Only this time, it sounded like a recording played backward. Check in, check in, check in. Then faintly underneath, you never left. I unplugged the TV and grabbed my keys. When I stepped outside, the parking lot was empty. No men, no cars, no sound. Only the desert wind, but the weirdest part? There was no gas pump. Just bare concrete and sand. Like it had never been there in the first place. The desert was dead quiet. No wind, no crickets, no hum from the power lines. Only that faint pressure in the air, the kind that makes your ears ring even in silence. I could still see the faint outline of the diner in the dark, its windows reflecting nothing but my headlights. I hesitated, debating whether to just drive off, but exhaustion mixed with curiosity in a way I couldn't shake. If the power had gone out, maybe the woman was still inside. Maybe she'd seen those two men. Maybe there was some explanation. So against every instinct, I walked toward the diner. The bell above the door jingled as I stepped in. Inside, the lights were back on. Every bulb, every neon sign. The jukebox in the corner was softly playing Blue Moon. But there was no one there. The counter had two plates sitting side by side, each with a half-eaten slice of pie, still warm. Steam rose from the coffee mugs next to them. The smell of burnt sugar and grease clung to the air, and somewhere beneath it was something faintly metallic. I called out, "Hello? You open?" No answer. Then, from behind the counter, a radio crackled to life, the same tone as an old CB channel. Southbound. Silver sky. Vacancy confirmed. It was the woman's voice again. But this time, her words were clearer, slower. Room 3, occupant awake. My stomach turned cold. That was my room. I stepped behind the counter. The radio was sitting next to the register, a bulky, dust-covered model from the 1960s, plugged into nothing. No power cord, no antenna. Just humming quietly like it had never stopped transmitting. I was about to touch it when something caught my reflection in the chrome napkin holder beside it. Behind me, through the diner window, I saw a movement. A shape walking across the lot. One of the men from before. Head down, step slow, moving like he was following a path that had been walked 1,000 times before. Then the second man appeared. Same clothes, same slow shuffle. They were coming toward the diner. I backed away, heart slamming in my chest, knocking over a stool on my way to the door. But when I stepped outside, they were gone again. Only tire tracks, dozens of them, in the dust. All leading into the same patch of desert behind the motel. The tracks didn't curve, didn't fade. They just stopped. Abruptly, like every vehicle had driven straight off the face of the earth. I went back to my truck, threw my bag into the cab, and started the engine. But the moment I turned the key, the radio, my radio, flickered on by itself. Same female voice, calm and distant. "Thank you for staying at the Silver Sky Motel. Checkout time, 2:17. I looked at the dashboard clock. 2:17 a.m. The same minute every story like this seems to end. I floored it out of the lot, headlights slicing through the darkness. In the rearview mirror, the neon sign glowed, faint pink. Vacancy. Flickering between on and off until it finally faded from sight. I drove straight through until sunrise, hands gripping the wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. When I finally reached Ely, I stopped at a gas station and asked the clerk if he'd ever heard of the Silver Sky Motel. He frowned, shook his head. "Saw one by that name in an old photo once," he said. "Used to be out near Route 50, burned down in the 80s. I couldn't shake it. For days afterward, the image of that pink neon sign haunted me. I kept replaying that woman's voice in my head. Checkout time, 2:17. Every trucker hears strange things on night routes. Radio bleed, mirages, engine noises that sound like whispers. But this was different. It had location, it had timing, and somehow it knew my name. So 3 months later I went back. Not for freight, not for delivery, just for answers. I started in Fallon, same as before, following the same desolate stretch of Highway 50 East. Only this time I tracked every mile marker, every side road, every landmark that might lead me back to the Silver Sky Motel. For the first 100 miles, nothing. Just empty desert and the occasional tumbleweed spinning across the asphalt. Then right around midnight I saw it again. That faint pink glow, pulsing on the horizon like a heartbeat. Same position, same angle, same impossible sense of déjà vu. I slowed down, heart racing, and there it was. Silver Sky Motel. Except it didn't look the same. The neon sign was shattered. The roof sagged inward. The diner windows were boarded up. Everything was blanketed in dust, decades of it. It wasn't the place I'd stayed at. It was a ruin. I parked and stepped out into the cold desert air. The silence felt heavier this time, like the world itself was waiting for me to realize where I was. The office door hung half open. Inside, the air smelled of mold and scorched wood. The front desk was half collapsed and the same mint green uniform hung behind it, draped across a mannequin. Or maybe it wasn't a mannequin. The head was missing. The register sat open and inside was a room key. Room 3. I walked down the cracked concrete path to the row of doors. Each one hung crooked or had fallen completely off, except room 3. That door was still shut, the brass number gleaming faintly under my flashlight. I turned the knob. It opened with a slow, dry groan. Inside, the room looked almost preserved. The bed was made. The TV sat in the corner, and on the nightstand was an old guest logbook. I flipped it open, names scrawled in pencil, most faded beyond reading. Then near the bottom of the page, dated October 1983, I saw my name. Mitchell Kane, room 3. My blood ran cold. That was the same date stamped on the police report I'd found later. A fatal motel fire caused electrical. One confirmed death. Male, mid-40s, unidentifiable, found in room 3. I slammed the book shut and stumbled backward. The TV in the corner flickered on, even though it wasn't plugged in. Static filled the room, followed by that same woman's voice, distorted and distant. Checkout time, 2:17. I turned to run, but when I reached the lot, my truck was gone. Only tire tracks remained, circling the property once before fading into the sand, like the road had swallowed them whole. By dawn, a highway patrol officer found me walking alone near marker 214. He said there was no motel anywhere near that stretch of road. Never had been, but here's the thing. A week later, I checked my dash cam footage from that night. It showed the drive clear as day, desert highway, headlights cutting through the dark. And then for 27 seconds, a perfect, full-color view of the Silver Sky Motel, glowing pink against the black. When the footage ends, the timestamp freezes at 2:17 a.m. and the very last frame. A neon sign flickering one final time, no vacancy. Every long-haul driver in Nevada knows Route 375. They call it the extraterrestrial highway, a narrow black ribbon cutting through hundreds of miles of desert nothingness. No lights, no rest stops, no help. Just the mountains, the sand, and the sky so wide it feels like it could swallow you whole. Most drivers avoid it after dark. Not because of what's out there, but because of what follows you back. I didn't believe any of that until last spring. It was a quiet run, hauling refrigerated medical supplies from Reno to Las Vegas. To save time, I cut across Route 375 instead of taking the longer highway east. I'd done it before, like smooth road, no traffic, easy money. The company liked it when you shaved an hour off. Around 11:45 p.m., somewhere past Rachel, The road started to shimmer under the heat even though the night air was freezing. I remember thinking how wrong that looked. Heat distortion in 40-degree weather. That's when I saw them, a string of headlights in my mirror. Far behind at first, maybe 4, maybe 5 sets, evenly spaced, perfectly aligned. Another convoy, I thought. Probably military. This area's close enough to Groom Lake that you see that kind of thing sometimes. So I radioed on channel 19. Southbound convoy. This is White Kenworth ahead of you. You reading me? Nothing. Just static. I tried again. Still nothing. That was weird. Convoys always respond, even private ones. It's basic courtesy on the road. The lights stayed behind me, same distance no matter how fast I drove. When I slowed to 50, they slowed too. When I hit 70, they matched exactly. It was like they were tethered to me. The odd part? They weren't bouncing. Every trucker knows how headlights dance with road vibration. But these lights glided, smooth as if the vehicles were floating above the pavement. I switched off my CB, telling myself I was just tired. The desert does that. Your brain starts inventing things to keep itself entertained. But a few miles later, the temperature inside my cab dropped fast, from 72 to 58 in seconds. The windows fogged and my breath turned visible in the air. The air conditioner was off. Then, through the fogged windshield, I saw another set of lights, coming toward me this time, same cold white hue, same perfect alignment. I flashed my high beams once, nothing. Again, still nothing. The two convoys, one behind me, one ahead and closed in from both directions. That's when my radio turned itself back on. A voice crackled through, low and metallic, barely human. Convoy, complete, maintain formation. It repeated 3 times before cutting out. I slowed to a crawl, heart pounding. The lights ahead pulled off the road and stopped. So did the ones behind me. They didn't dim, didn't flicker, just hung there in the dark like rows of eyes watching. Then slowly they began to move again, not around me, but through me. No engines. No sound. Just a blinding wall of white light washing through the cab, and for a moment I couldn't breathe. When it passed, my mirrors were empty. The highway stretched out behind me. Black, silent, endless. I was alone again. But my tachograph, the digital recorder that tracks motion, showed something impossible. Between 12:03 and 12:07 a.m., the truck had been stationary. I never stopped, and yet the odometer read 4 miles less than before. 4 miles I hadn't driven, gone, erased. When you've been driving as long as I have, you learn how to explain things away. You call it light refraction, fatigue, desert illusion, anything that fits the world you understand. But what happened that night didn't fit anywhere. The road ahead looked normal, but my GPS refused to load. The screen froze on a gray block labeled only restricted zone, data unavailable. I'd never seen that before. The map had always shown the highway in full, even near Groom Lake. But now, the stretch ahead was just static, like someone had erased it in real time. The truck's dashboard lights began to pulse in rhythm. Dim, bright, dim, bright, as if syncing to something outside. Then the radio clicked on by itself again. Southbound unit. Entering perimeter. Confirm identity. I froze. The voice didn't sound human. It was too precise, too clean, like an AI filtered through metal. I grabbed the mic. This is Private Freight, westbound 375. Who's calling? Convoy protocol detected. Maintain current speed. Negative, I said, my voice cracking. There is no convoy. Correction. 6 vehicles registered, maintain formation. I looked in the mirrors. Nothing but empty desert. No headlights. No vehicles. But when I glanced at my radar detector, 6 red blips pulsed behind me, moving perfectly in sync. At this point, panic set in. I floored the accelerator, tires spitting gravel, the truck roaring past 80. Didn't care about safety or regulations anymore, I just needed out. That's when I saw the checkpoint. A small booth appeared ahead, lit by a single green floodlight. Two figures in reflective gear stood on either side of the road. They weren't waving me down, just standing there, arms at their sides, faces completely hidden behind black visors. I hit the brakes hard, but the moment I did, the figures vanished. No fade. No blur, gone, and so was the booth. The floodlight flickered once, then snapped off, leaving me staring at empty asphalt. I stopped the truck and climbed out, boots crunching on the gravel. The air was freezing, colder than any Nevada night had a right to be. I looked around with my flashlight. No tire marks, no booth, no footprints. But when I turned back toward my truck, something was waiting on the windshield. A handprint. Not dust, not dirt, a perfect print made of soot or ash. 5 long fingers, too thin, too precise, and written beneath it in the grime were 3 words: "Stay in formation." I wiped it off and jumped back into the cab. Started the engine. The headlights flickered twice, and for a second I saw something reflected in the chrome of the hood. A convoy. 6 trucks, headlights bright and silent, lined up perfectly behind me. But when I turned around, the road was empty. By the time I reached the junction near Alamo, every device in the truck had died. Phone, GPS, radio, even the digital dash clock. Only the analog speedometer worked, and the needle sat frozen at 62 mph. I didn't stop until I hit the first open gas station. 2 hours later, trembling so hard I could barely swipe my card, the cashier asked if I was okay. Said I looked like I'd seen a ghost. I told him where I'd come from. Route 375, he frowned. "Buddy, that road's been closed since last week," he said. "Military exercise. You couldn't have come through there." 2 weeks after that night, I parked my rig in Reno and swore I'd never take Route 375 again. You tell yourself you'll forget, that sleep and daylight will wash the fear out of your system. But the desert doesn't let you go that easily. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those 6 lights, Mike, lined up in perfect silence behind me, never swaying, never blinking. And in the middle of the night, I'd hear the radio static again, that metallic voice repeating through my dreams. "Convoy complete. Maintain formation." I stopped answering the CB altogether after that. A few months later, I got a call from a driver named Ramos, someone I'd met once in a rest stop near Tonopah. He sounded shaken. Said he'd seen something strange near mile marker 147. 6 trucks, all unmarked, driving in total silence. No logos, no sound of engines, just headlights slicing through the sand. He said they passed right through his trailer. "Like fog, 6 trucks?" I asked. "No," he said. 7. My heart nearly stopped. A week later, I drove down to meet him in person at a diner outside Las Vegas. He brought his dashcam footage. Said he wanted a second opinion, someone who knew what to look for. The video was grainy, but you could see it clearly. A dark 2-lane highway, flat desert on both sides, and a line of 7 vehicles gliding silently through the night. Their headlights burned white, too bright for standard halogens, almost like plasma. The weird part? Each trailer reflected perfectly except the 7th truck. It had no reflection at all. Ramos paused the video, zoomed in on the final truck's side panel. The frame froze, and there, beneath the layer of digital static, I saw it. Faint but visible. My company logo. Same faded decal. Same model. Same dent in the passenger side door. It was my rig. "I thought that was your unit," Ramos said quietly. "I recognized the number. But when I checked with your dispatch, they said the truck's been off the road for 3 months. Said you filed a breakdown report near Alamo and never finished the route." I stared at the screen. In the frozen frame, my truck, or something that looked exactly like it, was gliding along the desert road. Its headlights dead, its windows blacked out. Inside the cab, for just 1 second, a shape moved, a figure behind the wheel, head tilted slightly toward the camera, and even through the distortion I could see the face. It was me. I don't remember much after that. Just cold sweat, a coffee cup slipping from my hand, and Ramos cursing under his breath. He said the footage corrupted after that frame. Audio fried. Timestamp frozen at 02:17 a.m. The same minute every time. I still drive freight. Different routes now. California, Arizona, nowhere near 375. But sometimes when I'm running through desert stretches at night, I catch a flicker of white in the mirror. A pair of headlights. Too far to see clearly, but steady, smooth, and always the same distance behind me. If I slow down, they slow down. If I pull off the road, they disappear. I don't answer the CB anymore, because I know what I'll hear if I do. Convoy complete. Maintain formation. And somewhere out there on Route 375, 7 silent trucks still drive through the desert, forever locked in formation. One of them looks just like mine, and maybe, just maybe, it still is. If you've ever run freight through central Nevada, you know how rare it is to find an open gas station after midnight. Most close by 10, maybe 11. Out there, it's just you, the desert, and the sound of your own tires slicing through the dark. But between Tonopah and Ely, there's a place truckers talk about in low voices. A 24-hour gas station that's not on any GPS. No address. No record. Just a rumor passed from driver to driver. They call it the Nightline Stop. I always figured it was a myth, until I found it myself. It was 1:47 a.m. when my low fuel alarm came on. I was running east on Highway 6 headed toward Ely with 40 miles to empty. I should have filled up earlier, but I'd been chasing a deadline and told myself I'd make it. That's when I saw it. A glowing sign in the distance. Gaske Food open 24 hours, bright red neon. Crisp, alive. The kind of light you don't question when you're almost out of fuel. I pulled in. Lot was empty except for one dusty pickup and a Coke machine humming by the door. The building looked frozen in time. Yellowed walls, a flickering fluorescent bulb above the entrance, and an old sign that read, "Since 1952. Inside, the air smelled faintly of motor oil and coffee that had been reheated 100 times. A man stood behind the counter. Tall, thin, gray hair slicked back, wearing a clean uniform with a stitched patch that said Earl. "Long way from home, driver?" he asked, smiling too wide. "Yeah," I said, rubbing my eyes. "Didn't think anything out here stayed open." He chuckled. "Somebody's got to keep the lights on." I handed him cash, asked if I could use the restroom. He nodded toward the back. The restroom door creaked like it hadn't been oiled in years. Everything inside was spotless, too spotless. Not a single scuff on the floor, not a drop of water in the sink. Even the mirror looked brand new. When I came back out, the store felt colder. Earl was still at the counter, but something about him looked different. His name patch was gone. His uniform was darker. And when I asked about the restroom again, he looked confused, like he didn't remember letting me use it. "You sure you're okay, driver?" he said. "You look pale." I muttered something about being tired, paid for the gas, and headed out. That's when I noticed the pump numbers. They weren't counting up. They were counting down from 1738, 1737, 736X. I froze. The nozzle was still in the tank, the numbers ticking backward with a soft click, click, click. When it hit $100, the pump screen flashed red, transaction complete. Time, 02:17 a.m., that same time again. I yanked the nozzle out and jumped in the cab. The moment I turned the key, the gas station lights went out. All at once. Total darkness. Only the red neon sign stayed lit, its letters flickering until it read, "Open, 217. I floored it out of the lot, headlights cutting through the black. In the mirrors, the gas station grew smaller, then disappeared completely, as if it had never been there. But when I stopped in Ely 2 hours later to refuel, the clerk looked at my tank reading and frowned. "Says you already filled up tonight," he said. "Receipt came through our system, from a place called Nightline Stop." He turned the screen toward me. The timestamp read, 02:17 a.m., and the attendant's name on the record was Earl, deceased 1983. I didn't tell anyone about what happened that night. Not the dispatcher, not other drivers, not even my wife. You don't want to sound like the kind of trucker who's losing it on the night shift. But the more I tried to forget, the more that timestamp, 2:17 a.m., kept burning in the back of my mind. Every clock I looked at seemed to hover near it. Every delivery that ran late somehow stopped at the same minute. Finally, a week later, I decided to go back. In daylight, I needed to see what was really out there. The gas station, the old man, something that made sense. I drove east along Highway 6 again, same direction, same landmarks. That long stretch of beige desert and telephone poles bending under the wind. According to the GPS, there was nothing between mile markers 143 and 156. Just dirt and heat. And yet, when I crested a hill near 147, there it was. Nightline stop. Bright as day. Gas pumps gleaming. Neon signs shining like it had been cleaned that morning. But now there were cars. Half a dozen of them, old models, perfectly preserved. A cherry red Ford from the 60s. A station wagon that looked straight out of the 80s. Even a pickup that could have rolled out of the 1940s. And they all had one thing in common. Each had a thick layer of dust under the tires, like they'd been sitting there for years. I parked and stepped out. The bell above the door jingled when I entered. This time there was music playing softly, something old, maybe Patsy Cline. The air smelled of coffee and gasoline. And Earl was there, only he wasn't the same man I'd seen a week ago. This Earl looked younger, hair darker, face fuller, but the same voice, same easy smile. "Morning, driver," he said. "Coffee's fresh. Help yourself." I looked around. The diner booths were full. Men and women of all ages eating quietly, each staring just slightly off into space. No one blinked. No one moved. Forks paused halfway between plate and mouth like a photograph come to life. Then I noticed their clothes. Different decades, different eras. A woman in a 1950s dress. A man in a trucker cap with a 70s logo. A kid wearing a jacket from a company that went bankrupt in 1994. I whispered, "Earl, who are they?" He smiled, polishing a glass that didn't need cleaning. "Regulars," he said. "Been stopping here a long time." I swallowed hard. "How long?" He tilted his head like he was thinking about it. Then his smile widened and his voice dropped an octave. "Since they ran out of gas." That's when I saw it. The calendar behind the register, October 17th, 1983. The day Earl supposedly died. I backed toward the door, but the moment my hand touched the knob, the music stopped. Every head in the diner turned toward me, dozens of eyes. "So his pal Bracier." Earl set the glass down carefully. "Leaving so soon?" he asked. "Thought you said you'd be passing through again." I didn't answer. I just bolted through the door, sprinting toward my truck. But when I turned the ignition, the radio came alive. Earl's voice, crackling through static. "Transaction incomplete, driver. You forgot to check out." The clock on my dashboard glowed bright red. 2:17 a.m. I floored it back onto the highway. But every time I looked in the mirror, the gas station was still there. Not fading into the distance. Not shrinking, just waiting. I drove for 40 miles before I dared blink. And when I finally looked back again, the road behind me was empty. No sign. No station, nothing. I didn't take Highway 6 again after that. Didn't even look at it on the map. For weeks I stuck to city routes. Reno, Carson, anywhere with cell service and lights that didn't flicker. But the mind doesn't forget what it can't explain. Every time I passed a rest stop or diner, I caught myself checking for a man with slicked back hair and a name tag that said Earl. Every time I fueled up, I stared too long at the digital readout, waiting for it to tick backward again. And then, 3 weeks later, I got a call from my company's accounting office. "Hey, strange one here," the guy said. "We've got a charge on your route card from a gas station that doesn't exist anymore." My stomach dropped. "Where?" "Someplace called Nightline Stop. We traced the address. It's in the middle of the desert. Nothing but sand now. He hesitated. It's weird. The receipt shows you were there at 2:17 a.m. But that's not possible. You were clocked and 100 miles away at the same time. They emailed me the transaction slip. I opened it in the cab that night, parked under a rest stop light. The file looked normal at first. Standard fuel log, timestamp, total. But under the customer name field, someone had typed Mitchell Kane, my full name. And underneath it, another line in smaller print read, regular customer. Since 1983, I stared at the screen until my eyes blurred. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the phone. Then the page refreshed itself. The line with my name disappeared, replaced by a single message. Transaction complete. See you soon. That night I slept in my truck with the engine running and the cabin lights on. Every sound made me jump. The wind, the hum of the tires cooling, even the static of my own CB. Around 2:15 a.m. the radio crackled on by itself. Nightline stop. This is Earl speaking. Welcome back, driver. You're right on time. I yanked the power cable, but the voice kept coming, soft, calm, patient. Pump number 3's open for you. Coffee's fresh. Then silence. The CB light glowed red for a moment longer, and the clock on the dash rolled over to 2:17 a.m. a week later. I heard through another driver that someone had spotted a gas station off Route 6 again. Brand new neon. Pumps working, open 24 hours. They said it looked different this time, but the man behind the counter had the same uniform, same smile, same stitched patch, only now it didn't say Earl, it said Kane. If you drive long enough through Nevada, you start hearing the same whispers about convoys that vanish, checkpoints that move, and roads that don't end where they should. The one I'm about to tell you isn't truck stop rumor. It's something I lived through myself. And no matter how many times I replay it, the ending still doesn't make sense. It was mid-June, just after midnight. 3 of us were running a small freight convoy. Me in the lead, Ramos in the middle, and a new guy, Vickers, bringing up the rear. We were hauling generator units from Reno to Ely, a straight shot through open desert. No turns for nearly 180 miles. The company liked us to run in groups, safer that way, especially at night when the state troopers disappear and the roads go black. We checked in every 30 minutes over CB. Just standard updates, fuel, weather, visibility. Everything was routine until around 1:48 a.m. That's when Ramos broke in on the channel. Breaker, Kane, you seeing what I'm seeing? I glanced ahead, nothing but empty asphalt. Negative. What's up? High beams about a mile out, but they're not moving, just sitting there. A minute later I saw them too. 2 white lights suspended dead center on the highway, too high for a car, too close for a plane. They weren't moving. They were hovering. We slowed to 50, then 40. As we got closer, the lights began to drift apart, like 2 eyes opening. Then they split. One veering left off the shoulder, the other right, and both vanished into the desert. Probably refraction, I said over the radio, though I didn't believe it. Out there, nothing refracts that bright. Not with no clouds, no wind, no glass for 100 miles. Vickers' voice came through next, low and uneasy. Guys, I think the GPS just split too. Say again. 2 routes, both labeled Highway 50. Both say Ely, one blue, one red. I checked mine. He wasn't kidding. 2 routes, identical distance, both highlighted as correct. Stick to the right, I told them. Always stay right on a split. That's the original line. We rolled on. But about 20 minutes later, Ramos came back over the radio and voice shaking now. Kane. Where the hell are you? I just passed marker 201. You there? I looked out the window. My headlights had just hit marker 201. Right in front of you, man. You can't miss me. No, I don't see you. I've got taillights ahead, but they're dim, almost orange. My dash clock flicked once, then froze at 2:17 a.m. A faint crackle came over the CB. Vickers this time. Breaker, I think I took the wrong one. My GPS just restarted. It says I'm still on 50, but there's no road now. Just dirt and the stars. The stars look wrong. I told him to stop the rig immediately. No response. Just white noise. The signal faded and in its place came something else. A new voice. Calm. Steady. Repeating in a loop through static. Convoy complete. Maintain distance. Next marker 217. For the first 10 minutes after the transmission, I kept calling their handles on the radio. Nothing. Just that steady, hollow static. It wasn't the usual kind of interference you get in the desert either. It had a rhythm almost like breathing, faint in and out like the desert itself was alive and listening. I should have turned back. But truckers don't reverse a 70-foot rig on a one-lane road with a loaded trailer. We push forward, always forward. So that's what I did. The highway stretched out so flat it looked drawn with a ruler. Moonlight glinted off the reflective paint, but as the miles rolled by, the dashes on the asphalt began to double. One set perfectly overlaid with another, just slightly misaligned. At first I thought it was fatigue, my eyes playing tricks. But then the tires started humming. Two distinct vibrations like I was driving on two roads at once. The GPS kept flipping between the blue route and the red one. Every 5 minutes it would blink, buzz, and reload my position a few hundred yards to the left. According to that screen, I was driving parallel to myself. Then at mile marker 217, I saw tail lights ahead. Relief hit me hard. Ramos, breaker 19, this is Kane, I called out. You there, buddy? Static. The red lights stayed steady in the distance, never brightening, never dimming. I pushed the throttle a little. The lights pushed too. When I slowed down, they slowed. I hit the horn and went long blast. No reaction. That's when I realized they weren't taillights. They were reflections, mine. The same make, same trailer, same license plate. But flipped. Like I was chasing myself through a mirror. The CB flickered again, and Vickers' voice came through quiet and broken. Kane, I can see you, man. But you're not in front of me anymore. You're beside me. You've been beside me for miles. I looked to my left. At first nothing, just sand. Then headlights, faint, blurred by heat. A whole convoy running parallel to mine. Trucks gliding silently through the desert. Each rig was identical. Same color, same cargo. Even the same streaks of bug splatter on the windshield. I counted them one by one. 3 trucks, me, Ramos, Vickers, and a fourth. The fourth rig had no lights on, just a dark shape moving perfectly in formation with the others. No driver visible through the glass. No plate on the trailer. Then my CB whispered. Not crackled, not glitched, but whispered. Convoy complete. Maintain distance. I grabbed the mic, shouting now. Ramos, Vickers. Brake, stop! Do you copy? For a second I thought I heard an answer. A voice I didn't recognize, low, calm, mechanical. You already stopped. I looked down. My speedometer read 0, but the road was still moving under me. The white lines kept sliding by, miles rolling away beneath a truck that wasn't going anywhere. I slammed the brakes, threw the transmission into neutral. Nothing changed. The world just kept sliding past, endless desert looping like a reel of film burning in reverse. Then far ahead I saw something impossible. 2 highways merging back into one. The red route and blue route twisting together like veins. And standing dead center between the merging lanes was a man holding a flashlight. I blinked once. He was gone. My dash clock flashed. 2:17 a.m. When the man vanished, the road went black, not dark, black. Like the world had been erased instead of unlit. My headlights showed nothing but a flat wall of night. No sand, no sky, no horizon. Just an endless, depthless void swallowing the beam whole. I remember gripping the wheel so tight my knuckles locked, hearing the hum of the tires without feeling the ground beneath them. It was like driving through a dream where motion exists but direction doesn't. Then out of nowhere the world snapped back, as if someone had flipped a breaker. The desert returned. The highway reappeared. The clock on my dash unfroze. 3:06 a.m. and the radio came alive again. Breaker 19, this is Highway Patrol Dispatch. You said you were eastbound from Reno, right? You still on 50? I almost cried hearing another voice. I told them yes, that I'd lost contact with my 2 convoy partners, that something was wrong out there, very wrong. They told me to keep driving until I hit Ely, that they'd meet me at the way station just outside of town. It should have taken another 2 hours. But I reached Ely in 27 minutes. The fuel gauge hadn't moved. My tachometer read 0, but the odometer showed an extra 114 miles. When I rolled into the way station, a patrol officer was already waiting. Young guy, coffee in hand, confused as hell. You said you were with 2 other trucks, right? We've been monitoring the highway all night. Only one came through. He showed me the footage, grainy dashcam feed from a patrol cruiser parked near the entrance. My rig appeared out of total darkness. No headlights visible before that, just suddenly there. As if the desert had spat me out. No other vehicles. No convoy, nothing. I gave my statement. They ran the plates for Ramos and Vickers. Both registered, both active in the system. But according to dispatch logs, their GPS units had gone offline at exactly 2:17 a.m. Same minute my clock froze. Same time the road duplicated. A week later, the company organized a search along Highway 50. Volunteers, cops, even other truckers joined in. They found tire marks leading off the shoulder near marker 217, then nothing. No debris, no cargo. No sign of impact. It was as if 2 semis had simply rolled off the edge of the world. The official report lists it as vehicle disappearance under extreme conditions. The file's still open. Every year or so, another driver claims to see a faint glow out near marker 217. 2 distant red tail lights frozen in the dark, never getting closer, never fading away. I still haul freight through Nevada sometimes, but I don't run Highway 50 anymore. Not after that night. Because I know what's waiting out there. A split in the road that doesn't show on any map. A place where time folds and the desert decides who gets to leave. And sometimes, when I tune the CB just right, I still hear it. A quiet, looping message through the static. Convoy complete. Maintain distance. Next marker 217.